You're listening to Down the Road Radio, and welcome back to the continuing Guy Clark story with myself, Jerry Hodgers. So the year is 1995, and as I explained in the previous episode, there was a new chart created called the Gavin Report, which basically was an Americana chart. And Guy had a new album called Dublin Blues, and Dublin Blues went to number one on the Gavin Report. Now the title track, Dublin Blues, is probably one of Guy's best songs, definitely one of his favourites from my ear. But an interesting fact about the song that I discovered is that it's based on an old Irish poem with the title Handsome Molly. Here's a little bit of that poem, just to give you an idea of what Guy Clark read and then developed. Because apparently this song was written whilst he was in Dublin. Here's a few lines from Handsome Molly. Well, I wish I was in London or some other seaport town. Step my foot on a steamboat and sail the ocean round. Sailing round the ocean, sailing round the sea. I think of Handsome Molly, wherever she may be.
I was in Austin, in the chili parlor bar, drinking Mad Dog margaritas and not caring where you are. Here I sit in Dublin, just rolling cigarettes, holding back and choking back the shakes with every breath. So forgive me all my anger, forgive me all my faults. There's no need to forgive me for thinking what I thought. I loved you from the get-go, and I'll love you till I die. I loved you on the Spanish Steps the day you said goodbye. Poor boy, works my middle name. If money was a reason, well, I would not be the same. I'll stand up and be counted. I'll face up to the truth. I'll walk away from trouble, but I can't walk away from you. So forgive me all my anger, forgive me all my faults. There's no need to forgive me for thinking what I thought. I loved you from the get-go, and I'll love you till I die. I loved you on the Spanish Steps the day you said goodbye. in the chilly parlor bar, drinking Mad Dog margaritas and not caring where you are.
And that's Dublin Blues. And Rodney Crowell could have been a co-write on that song. Only himself and Guy were having an argument about the way Guy constantly allowed other songwriters to come to him, have a chat with maybe one line and leave with a full song that Guy had practically written for them. And Guy would not take any credit on it. So on this particular one, Rodney was a bit stubborn on getting involved because he felt that it was unfair. So he left Guy to write it on his own, and Guy did that. Now, another thing, Guy and Rodney Crowell were great friends and they spent a lot of time together. Just as much as Guy appreciated Townes Van Zandt, he had a lot of respect for Rodney Crowell. He subsequently wrote a song in memory of Rodney Crowell's dad, J.W. Crowell, and this song was called Black Diamond Strings.
Black diamond strings, it's black diamond strings, drinking 1W Harper, playing black diamond strings. Black diamond strings are like white flour and grits. You play black diamond strings 'cause it's all you can get. Black diamond strings on a catalog guitar, that's pretty high cotton, whoever you are. Break one, you change one, that's as good as it gets. You can play all year long on 2 or 3 sets. J.W. Crowell was a hell of a man. He played 2 nights a week in a hillbilly band. He played at the Ice House on Telephone Road, and he played in the yard just to lighten his load. Black diamond strings, oh black diamond strings, drinking 1W Harper, playing black diamond strings. Black diamond strings are like white flour and grits. You play black diamond strings 'cause it's all you can get. Say, hey, J.W., come on, play that frog line. That old Rodney set in, hell, he's going on 9. His fingers are bleeding, but he's keeping good time, playing black diamond strings, and he'll never quit trying. Now, Cosette, she told them both. She said, you boys pack it up, it's time to go home. We got church in the morning and it's coming up dawn. Now don't make me say it again or I'm gone. You can stay here forever, but you're gonna walk home. Black diamond strings, oh black diamond strings, drinking 1W Harper, playing black diamond strings. Black diamond strings are like white flour and grits. You play black diamond strings 'cause it's all you can get. Black diamond strings, oh black diamond strings, drinking 1W Harper, playing black diamond strings. Black diamond strings are like white flour and grits. You play black diamond strings 'cause it's all you can get. shirt and it suits me just fine. I like the way it feels, so I wear it all the time. I got no guitar, won't ever stay in tune. I like the way it sounds in a dark and empty room. I got an old pair of boots and they fit just right. Well, I can work all day and I can dance all night. I got an old used car and it runs just like a top. I get the feeling it ain't ever gonna stop. Stuff that works, stuff that holds up, the kind of stuff you don't hang on the wall. Stuff that's real, stuff you feel, the kind of stuff you reach for when you fall. I got a pretty good friend who's seen me at my worst. He can't tell if I'm a blessing or a curse, but he always shows up when the chips are down. That's the kind of stuff I like to be around. Stuff that works, stuff that holds up, the kind of stuff you don't hang on the wall. Stuff that's real, stuff you feel, the kind of stuff you reach for when you fall. She's crazy and paints like God. She's got a playground sense of justice, she won't take odds. I got a tattoo with her name right through my soul. I think everything she touches turns to gold. Stuff that works, stuff that holds up, stuff you don't hang on the wall. Stuff that's real, stuff you feel, the kind of stuff you reach for when you fall. Stuff that works, stuff that holds up, the kind of stuff you don't hang on the wall. Stuff that's real, stuff you feel, the kind of stuff you reach for when you fall.
And that's the beautiful stuff that works. And there's a lovely story that goes behind the writing on that song. Rodney Crowell, he had been, in his own words, falling away, fading. His stardom, his 15 minutes of fame, he felt was over. And he was ready to quit the music business. He'd had enough. And Guy had been prodding at him for a while to sit and write with him. And one day, Guy called to his door knocked the door, and when Rodney opened the door, Guy just said, "Shut up." And Rodney knew exactly what he meant. "Don't speak, I have something for you." And he had the idea of the song Stuff That Works. And they wrote it that afternoon together. And when it was finished, Rodney Crowell believed that he had redeemed himself and was ready to go back out and make more music. And when you listen to the lyric in that song, it just is such a beautiful sentiment of strength and reliability and consistency. And I see where Rodney Crowell was rescued by those lyrics. Now, another song on the Dublin Blues album that has stood the test of time and is a fabulous piece of writing is a song called The Cape, which was an original idea by Susanna Clark, who thought of the idea and after a conversation with Willie Nelson while they were out on the road. And the guy called Jim Janowski and Susanna attempted to write a song called The Cape. They eventually brought it to Guy because they were kind of stuck and they couldn't really see where they were going with it. So here is The Cape.
Years old with a flower sack cape tied all around his neck. He climbed up on the garage, he's figuring what the heck. Screwed his courage up so tight that the whole thing come unwound. He got a running start and bless his heart, he headed for the ground. Well, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape. Now he's all grown up with a flower sack cape tied all around his dreams. And he's full of piss and vinegar and he's busting at the seams. So he licked his finger and checked the wind. It's gonna be do or die. He wasn't scared of nothing, boys. He's pretty sure he could fly. Well, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape. Flower sack cape tied all around his head. And he's still jumping off the garage and will be till he's dead. All these years the people said he's acting like a kid. He did not know he could not fly, so he did. Well, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape. Yeah, he's one of those who knows that life is just a leap of faith. Spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape. Spread your arms and hold your breath and always trust your cape.
So that's The Cape from the album Dublin Blues, which was Guy Clark's first #1 album, and it really gave him carte blanche to do whatever it was he wanted to do. He was on an absolute roll. Now, there's one more song I want to take from that album before we move on, and it's a song that Guy says he wrote that it was way too long. Everything he wrote, he recorded, and normally he would cut out a lot and edit down and fine-tune, but on this one, everything he put on the page, he recorded. This is Hank Williams Said It Best.
One man's hawk is another man's dove. One man's hug is another man's shove. One man's rock is another man's sand. One man's fist is another man's hand. Well, one man's tool is another man's toy, and one man's grief is another man's joy. One man's spark is another man's sang, and one man's crutch is another man's wang. Now one man's pride is another man's humble. One man's step is another man's stumble. One man's pleasure is another man's pain, and one man's loss is another man's gain. One man's can is another man's grail. One man's anchor is another man's sail. One man's right is another man's wrong, and one man's curse is another man's song. For every father's daughter, for every mother's son, the only thing the same is that it ain't for anyone. Hank Williams said it best, he said it a long time ago. Unless you have made no mistakes in your life, be careful of stones that you throw. Deuce is another man's ace. One man's back is another man's face. One man's reason is another man's rhyme. One man's dollar is another man's dime. Now one man's tree is another man's post. One man's angel is another man's ghost. One man's rain is another man's drought. One man's hope is another man's doubt. Now one man's faults is another man's fair. One man's tooth is another man's hair. One man's hand is another man's stub. One man's feast is another man's grub. One man's dread is another man's dream. One man's sigh is another man's scream. One man's water is another man's wine. One man's daughter leave another man crying. For every father's daughter, for every mother's son, the only thing the same is that it ain't for anyone. Hank Williams said it best, he said it a long time ago. Unless you have made no mistakes in your life, be careful of stones that you throw. Another man's feast. One man's pet is another man's beast. One man's bat is another man's ball, and one man's art is another man's scrawl. Yeah, one man's friend is another man's foe, and one man's Joseph is another man's Joe. One man's hammer is another man's nail, and one man's freedom is another man's jail. Yeah, one man's road is another man's rut. One man's if is another man's butt. One man's treasure is another man's trash, and one man's landing is another man's crash. One man's word, another man's lie. One man's dirt, another man's sky. One man's skin is another man's color. One man's killer is another man's brother. For every father's daughter, for every mother's son, the only thing the same is that it ain't for anyone. Hank Williams said it best, he said it long
So the year is 1996, and Guy decides he would like to do a live album, one where the players are all sitting around facing each other, not to the audience, so that they can work the chemistry of the music between them. And the venue that he chose was a place called Douglas Corner on 8th Avenue South in Nashville's Melrose neighborhood. And I'm going to play three songs in a row, actually taking an extract from that live album. So you can get a feel of what it was like to be in an audience when Guy Clark was playing and it was being presented in this beautiful acoustic setup. So sit back, pour yourself a small one and enjoy. And I'll let Guy Clark do the introduction for this first song.
Texas. I'm going down to save my soul, get that barbecue and chili, eat my fill and come back home. I'm gonna take my baby with me. We're gonna have a high old time. We're gonna eat till we get silly. Sure does make a beer taste fine. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking, son? Oh, my mama, to stop your belly and backbone for bubbling. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking good? Oh, my mama, eat it every day if I could, alright. Armadillo tastes so sweet he called it pie. I know a woman make pandals that taste so good it gets you high. Get them enchiladas greasy, get them steaks chicken fried. Sure to make a man feel happy to see white gravy on the side. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking, son? Oh, my mama, to stop your belly and backbone for bubbling. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking good? Oh, my mama, eat it every day if I could, alright. Got fried okra, beat anything that I ever saw. I know a man that cook cabrito, it must be against the law. We're gonna get a big old sausage, big old plate of ranch style beef. I could eat the heart of Texas, we're gonna need some brand new cheese. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking son? Oh, my mama, to stop your belly and backbone for bubbling. Texas cooking good. Oh, my mama, eat it every day if I could say it. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking son? Oh, my mama, to stop your belly and backbone from bubbling. Oh, my mama, ain't that Texas cooking good? Oh, my mama, eat it every day if I could, alright. Thank you. It's a song about a man who was kind of like my grandfather. Actually, he was my grandmother's boyfriend, is what he was. A wildcatter out in West Texas, and that means you drill oil wells just for the hell of it. You know, it doesn't really matter if you get anything. It's the sport. Anyway, he's the guy who taught me how to whittle and spit and cuss and drive a car and sit up straight. And I'd play the Red River Valley, and he'd sit in the kitchen and he'd cry, run his fingers through 70 years of living, and wonder, Lord, has every well I drilled gone dry? We were friends, me and his old man, like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train. Well, he's a drifter and a driller of oil wells, and an old school man of the world. He taught me how to drive his car when he's too drunk to. Oh, and he'd wink and give me money for the girls. Our lives were like some old western movie, like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train. And from the time that I could walk, he'd take me with him to a bar called the Green Frog Cafe. And there was old men with beer guts and dominoes. Oh, and they're lying about their lives while they play. And I was just a kid that they all call his sidekick, like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train. And one day I looked up and he's pushing 80, and his brown tobacco stains all down his chin. Well, I mean, he's one of the heroes of this country. So why is he all dressed up like them old men? He's drinking beer and playing Moon and 42, like a desperado waiting for a train, like a desperado waiting for a train. And then the day before he died, I went to see him. And I was grown and he was almost gone. So we just closed our eyes and dreamed us up a kitchen, and sang another verse to that old song. Come on, Jack, some bitch is coming. We're like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train, like desperados waiting for a train.
Kenny Malone, Daryl Scott, Susie Ragsdale, Berlin Thompson.
Now that's how I like to hear Guy Clark's music, presented in an acoustic, unproduced, natural way. There were some fabulous musicians involved in the recordings, done over several nights. Even Emmylou Harris was there. But there were about 18 of the tracks recorded that were never released. And the Keepers, I think, had 11 tracks on it. And one of the tracks that was on that is A Coat from the Cold. Early in 1997, January, Townes Van Zandt, who had been in hospital seriously ill, signed himself out and went home, where shortly after he passed away. Townes Van Zandt was probably Guy Clark's most inspiring friend. There was a song written by Steve Earle about Townes. Guy had struggled for a long time after Townes passed away to write anything, and he's quoted as saying upon hearing this song, he just folded the pages and gave up on the idea. And here is that song. And what I've done with this, I wanted you to hear both artists play it. So we start with Guy Clark. Somewhere in the middle, Steve Earle. and then we finish with Guy Clark. And this is Fort Worth Blues.
Fort Worth, neon shining bright, pretty lights, red and blue. They've shut down all the honky tonks tonight. Say a prayer or two, if they only knew. I used to say the highway was your home, but we both know that ain't true. It's just the only place a man can go when he don't know where he's traveling to. Colorado's always clean healing. Tennessee in spring's green and cool. It never really was your kind of town, but you went around with the Fort Worth Blues. Somewhere up above the Great Divide, where the sky's wide and the clouds few, a man can see his way clear to the light. Just hold on tight, that's all you gotta do. They say Texas weather's always changing. One thing change will bring something new. And Houston really ain't that bad a town, so you hang around with the Fort Worth Blues. There's a full moon over Galway Bay tonight, silver light on green and blue. And every place I travel to, I find some kind of sign that you've been through. Amsterdam is always good for grieving. London never fails to leave me blue. Oh, Paris really ain't my kind of town, so I walked around with the Fort Worth Blues.
I think that's a very fitting tribute to Townes Van Zandt, a song written by Steve Earle. And to be honest, I do think Steve Earle does a better job of it than Guy Clark. I think the emotive quality of Steve Earle's delivery is far superior in that particular song. Guy put that song on the album Cold Dog Soup, but they had previously worked on a project with Townes and Steve where they had recorded Steve Earle, Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark live at the Bluebird Cafe. But the recording wasn't released for a couple of years yet, so we're going to get to that in the next episode. But for now, I want to take a few tracks from the album Cold Dog Soup. Now here's a track written with Verlon Thompson, who was for many years Guy's guitar man, his right hand. And they wrote this together back in the early days when they both worked as songwriters for CBS Records. And this is Indian Head Penny.
I rode off to San Francisco in 1909. Last one they ever made, you should have seen me shine. When I landed on the counter, they gave me to a kid. Making change for a jawbreaker was the first thing that I did. I got traded for a pocket knife, 2 marbles and some string. Wound up on a railroad track waiting for a train. I got snatched up by a hobo and turned right into wine. Pitched up against the wall at least 100,000 times. Oh, round and round a penny goes, round and back again. Listen and I'll tell you the places that I've been. I got stolen from a banker by pretty boy Floyd and then he gave me to a farmer who was trying to save his land. I was good luck to a soldier back in World War II, but he lost me in a poker game the day the war was through. I got stuck behind the backseat of a 51 Chevrolet. I was spare change in the 60s, getting worthless every day. Now it's piggy banks and gum machines and occasional wishing well. Or laying on the barroom floor, Indian heads or tails. Round and round the penny goes, round and back again. Listen and I'll tell you the places that I've been. I'm a pretty lucky penny, Lord, it happens every time. Just when I start feeling lost and left behind, some kid'll pick me up and wonder where I've been, and put me in his pocket, whoa, and here I go again. Boy, round and round a penny goes, round and back again. Listen and I'll tell you the places that I've been. Round and round a penny goes, round and back again. Listen and I'll tell you the places that I've been.
And that's Indian Head Penny from the album Cold Dog Soup. Now here's another song that Guy wrote, this one on his own. This is called Red River.
From Palo Canyon outside Amarillo, Texas, the prairie dog town fork of the Red River flows, headed across the plains for the coast of Oklahoma, through the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico. Well, my great-granddaddy came to that Red River line, and he camped on the north side until it was time to cross or to stay, to be sooner or not. Well, he headed south to San Antone, they said he liked it hot. Red River, I know you of old. You have filled up my pockets with quicksand and gold. Susanna, oh Susanna, south of that Red River line. Here's to Charlie Goodnight and Mr. Loving too. And here's to Coronado, the Comanche and the blues. And here's to the bootleggers and the oil field crews. And here's to one and all of us Red River fools. Red River, I know you of old. You have filled up my pockets with quicksand and gold. Susanna, oh Susanna, when it comes my time, just you bury me south of that Red River line. Susanna, oh Susanna, when it comes my time, please bury me south of that Red River line.
Now that's all we have time for this week. Please do join me next week on Down the Road Radio, Friday nights 10 p.m, which is repeated on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m, where we will continue with the Guy Clark story. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time. I hope you're enjoying it, and I look forward to speaking with you next week. Good night.